Rewards, while we try this first beer, awards are an interesting thing. They don't necessarily determine that everything you're doing is perfect, but it is a way to put your name in the hat, your beers in the arena.
Hey guys, I'm Brian. This is Khalil.
We are BeersofaFeather, a show that brings great questions
and even better beers. Today we are at Eppig Brewery in San Diego, California at the waterfront. We are here joined by Clayton, one of the co-owners of Eppig Brewery. So, welcome.
Thanks, man. It's always a pleasure when I get to come down to the waterfront. I'm always up in Vista at the brewery, so it's nice when I get to come down here and visit.
What I like about this is, well, one, it's close to me. I live like right over there. As you know from earlier when I forgot equipment, it takes me like 15 minutes to go home. But beyond that is your location here, and I love being in the harbor area. So to me, I walk by here and I see you guys, I'm like, this is absolutely a stellar location for a tasting room.
Yeah.
So
we scored. We got lucky.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure.
We actually just had our 5th year anniversary of this location on Sunday. And I remember it vividly, just discovering this place. My partner, Todd, found out about it, and it had sat empty for like 2 years. This is pre-COVID and all that, and it just hadn't been rented by the right customer. And we walked through the door, and they were excited to have the idea of a brewery, which, you know, a lot of places, it's not the worst thing they've heard. If like, oh, a brewery's gonna open up next door, that usually is pretty friendly received.
Oh, well, exactly. In San Diego, too. I mean, 150, 160. There's always that number. Some are dropping off here and there. We got hit pretty hard at COVID. But we do have that rise again coming into the breweries. I remember I was listening to a podcast you did, I think last year. We were talking about where you guys started and doing that co-op tri-brewery setup. And I think that program is absolutely amazing. I personally never heard of that anywhere else. San Diego is blessed to have something like that to get people up and running, especially your story. And we'll get to that in a second. We are in the sun, so we're going to run through these beers and slur by the end when we start talking about the backstory of Eppig Brewery, because it is an awesome backstory.
Great backstory. So what he was talking about for our viewers, they were actually joined in on one of the ignition programs, right?
Brewery Igniter.
Brewery Igniter.
Yep.
So what that does is that helps them build their business as they're just getting started. And right now they have 3 different locations. This is one of the locations right here at the waterfront, Shelter Island, Point Loma. So let's go ahead and get started on some of these beers. What do we got first?
All right, first one we're trying today. We're going to get started.
Left to right?
Left to right.
Eppig, the name is a German name, so we tend to do a lot of German beers, and this is one that most everyone's heard of is the Pilsner style, Pils style.
Now, before we do this, you guys, I want to say just right off the bat, cheers for winning 6 awards.
Man, you guys have been winning awards like
7. Oh my God! Oh, it's right. You tied. Right? You tied for the most awards?
Us and Virgin, another great brewery that's up in Carlsbad. Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely talk about Michael Phelpsing the brewery. I mean,
they've been winning awards ever since they've opened up. Like, it's crazy. It just seems like you guys just keep winning and winning.
Yeah, awards, while we try this first beer, awards are an interesting thing. They don't necessarily determine that everything you're doing is perfect, but it is a way to put your name in the hat, your beers in the arena, and compare like to like. And so there is a value there. Sometimes we have breweries, so many breweries in San Diego, some people are so avant-garde that maybe their beers don't fit in a style. We're very lucky that a lot of ours kind of fit more traditional tasting notes, as you might say. And so if you can put them in there and you know that you're up against Virgin and Lost Abbey and AleSmith, and if you can get your name on the win list, like it's encouraging and positive,
For sure.
And again, I mean, like, you have your beers sitting with everybody else's. I think they had like 4,000 different people coming through and tasting and judging. I mean, that is a huge sampling, and to stand apart with that is absolutely awesome. and I say it every episode. You guys are mad scientists. You are chefs. I mean, it is. Everybody's using the same ingredients, but the way you use those ingredients makes a completely different journey every brewery.
Yep.
And it's amazing to see that. And I can totally understand because I can go and follow a recipe and it's going to be trash. And, somebody that knows what they're doing in the kitchen can follow that, or they probably don't have to follow that recipe. Yep. They probably wrote the recipe, but it is completely different, right? Yep. And that's why they're famous and have their own restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
And breweries.
That's exactly why they call it craft beer. So how did you guys come up with this one? Is this one's the Hell's?
So this
Pilsner?
This one is the Pilsner.
Okay.
In the styles of beer, for those who are new to beer, just real quick, there's generally two styles of beer. There's lagers and there's ales. One is cold fermented, which are the lagers, which tend to have the characteristics of being cleaner, drier finishing beers. They tend to have less kind of like fruity notes, whereas the ales, which are warmer fermented, will tend to have notes and flavors that might be fruity, or more aromatic, and that comes from like the warmer that yeast works and is able to push off a little more extra flavors, whereas the lagers in the colder temperatures kind of are more hunkered down. They go about their business of eating the yeast. So a Pilsner style, which is one of the big popular German styles, I would call it like the second strength of lagers. So you start with Helles, which is like the lightest, least hoppy, lowest ABV, typical style that you see sort of nationwide. And then after that, we step up to Pilsners, which are going to bump up just a little bit in ABV, around the high 4s, low 5% range. But they'll have just like that little bit of a hoppy note right at the end there. Not hoppy like Sandiego with IPAs,
West Coast IPA.
Yeah. I mean, you can make those, but in the traditional sense of in Europe, there is just that little bit of like maybe grassy or herbal note that's in there that comes from a little more hop content to balance out that malt sweetness.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nice.
That's a crisp beer, man.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. I love it. Very drinkable.
The kids say crispy boys.
Right?
I hear this all the time.
Yeah, it's crispy boys. That's awesome. So what do we got here? This is the...
And the next one, we're climbing the ladder. This is a year-round beer we make called Special Lager. When we started making this beer in 2016, when we were brand new, when Eppig got open, we said we were going to actually, believe it or not, we were going to make a Mexican lager because back then nobody was really making a lot of lagers. Well, the summer we were getting open, a couple of our compatriot brewers actually came out with a Mexican lager. So we shifted gears and we said, well, there's this other population that's not represented, kind of like the large Asian American population that is represented, underrepresented in Sandiego. And every time I go eat like sushi or if I go to Point Loma Seafoods or Mitch's, and I'm drinking Sapporo, I'm drinking Kirin, I'm drinking Asahi Ichiban. Yeah. So we switched gears and made this, and it came out like gangbusters. It was selling, it was doing really well. Yeah. And people ask, well, what is it? And I'm like, well, it kind of is it starts life, it was the spirit of like a German Pilsner, but if we were in Japan, we would have rice more available than we would barley as a fermentation product. To make fermentation occur. And so we actually use a fair amount of barley and a little bit of rice, which you can kind of get that sweet sushi note in there. Oh yeah. Combined with, we Sandiego'd it a little bit with some North American hops. A touch of Centennial that gives it a little bit of like a lemon blossomy note. And if you're eating fish, if you're down by the water and you're having fish tacos or whatever, it's my absolute favorite beer to have, well, by itself and then with that kind of food.
That's right.
That does make sense.
So this one's the Japanese lager, right? Yep. Yeah, made with rice finish, and it definitely reminds me of like a Sapporo, but it has a little bit more flavor in there. You guys' barley just must be a lot better here in America than it is over back there. So that probably has something to do with it.
When we want to craft things up and we want to show that the macro beer that is produced, say in Japan, well, there's a way to make it taste better. And one of the things that craft breweries fight against is the just general homogenization and simplification and cost reduction that is the beer that we drank maybe when I was much younger and realized, hey, there's all these other options. Look at this. Look at the rainbow we've got going on.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And not one of these is a cheeky freak. These are all legitimate beer styles that already existed and we never learned about And so maybe we came to San Diego, got into the craft beer world, and was like, oh, there's all these amazing different beers. You just had 2 light beers side by side and see how different they are.
Completely different.
Yeah, very different.
Right from the very first taste. I mean, just side by side, you are absolutely, you got such the crispy boy, and you've got like this this fullness. You still have that light, but as soon as you drink it, you're just like, it's just full of flavor right off the bat, and you do.
That's right.
You do hit. I get a little floral from this particular one, and I could see this with fish tacos.
Yep.
I can taste it with fish tacos, and now I want fish tacos. So luckily we're here in like the sea area. Like we got the bay, we got the seafood place right next door. Don't park in their parking lot. But only, it's just limited space. But just do what most people should do is Uber over here, take a walk, have some beers, grab some fish tacos, drink some more beers, and Uber home. Yeah. That is a fantastic day.
I always recommend Ubering down here, calling in order to, Point Loma Seafoods, Mitch's next door. They're just our neighbors.
I love Mitch's.
And you can take an Uber right to the end, and then you can call in that order and just bring the food over and sit and eat, have beer to your heart's content.
That's a great way to do it. Mitch's fish tacos with that beer. I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, I'll be back. I'm gonna be back this weekend.
With the beer and the fish tacos, like you just can't just beat the atmosphere. Like,
oh man,
this location is just superb.
We're not being yelled at by a sea lion yet, so we should
go. Work, guys.
This is great.
It's working.
Yeah, right.
Actually, there's no quote. It's actually work.
It's not work.
Yeah,
the location's awesome.
So we're going right on here.
The next one we're drinking is cheers again. Is to our big winner here, the Vienna Lager.
The Vienna Lager.
This beer has taken home a gold and a silver at Great American Beer Festival. We don't have it year-round, but we have it a lot of the year.
I like the color to this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color. Yeah. It has just the lightest touch of oaked, smoked wheat in it.
Oh, man.
Which I wouldn't, when people ask, it's like, oh, is it a smoked beer? I was like, It's meant to, we really love just like this gentle hand of touching flavors in there. I think being delicate, like we were talking about with a chef with food, he could take 4 ingredients off a shelf and make award-winning dinner where you and me would just basically just sort of like, it's food.
As my wife would say, I burn everything. If the fire alarm's going off, I'm cooking dinner. That's just the way it is. So it's more than just the ingredients. Yeah. It's the process.
Yeah. Oh, that's just Brian cooking.
That's me cooking.
This one has like a really special taste to it. I've never tasted anything like this.
It's a bit of a Prohibition style.
Yeah, I like the smoke. You said like something about smoky. Yeah. Like I do taste that kind of smoky flavor to it.
Smell it.
Yeah,
just a hint. And
I like it.
When it's kind of an homage to the beers that were around right when the Vienna Lager was invented, where right around when Vienna Lagers were invented was when they figured out how to kiln barley not directly over a fire. Before then, all beers were smoked beers because they make a fire, put a rack on top of it, put the barley on it to roast it to whatever degree, but it all got hit by smoke.
Yeah.
Right around the time the Vienna Lagers were coming in, it was the invention of when they learned to displace the heat off to the side. Let the smoke go up the chimney, and it revolutionized making beer and cold lagers. And so this is sort of has that hint of smoke, but without being over the top, and as sort of our pre-Prohibition style that demonstrates that change in brewing history.
That is awesome. And speaking of the Prohibition, everything like that, so you guys actually, the original founders of Eppig Brewing were from Brooklyn or from Germany, right? Then
Germany to Brooklyn.
And they started out, making their own brew there, and then
they were like the OGs.
The Prohibition started.
Brewed in suits. They had it was olden times. Things were crazy, and they moved from Germany, Bavaria, to Brooklyn, and in 1866 is when Eppig. The original Eppig Brewing got started with the family, and it went on for 70 years.
70 years.
Yeah.
Did it ever get shut down? Because you guys reopened back in 2016 it was?
Right.
So was it officially shut down and you guys just brought it back to life?
That's the fun part of the story.
Yeah, that's right.
It is. So they made it, generational. It was the great grands, then the great grands, and they brought their sons in, and they made it all the way to and through Prohibition. So they actually survived Prohibition. They were one of the few, I forget how many brews there were before Prohibition, I'm just blanking on it now, but it was a lot. It was like 8,000 because they didn't have transportation routes like they do now. So every corner every town had their own brewery. So almost like it is now, where there's like 9,000 breweries across the country. Yeah. When Prohibition occurred, Eppig at the time started making non-alcoholic beer and various other cereal beverages, as they were called. If you're in Brooklyn and it's Prohibition, you know, if you're gonna make non-alcoholic beer, you're making beer and then you're boiling off the alcohol because it boils off at 160, 170, which is terrible for beer. But maybe some of that beer makes it out the back door. Maybe that beer makes it on, and that's how they kind of survived.
Yeah.
So I mean, Prohibition was such a, in my own opinion, it's reversed, obviously, and I think one good thing came from Prohibition is we do have non-alcoholic beer for people that don't want to have alcohol in their beer. You had to perfect it so you still have people coming back for it through the front doors.
Right.
And then the back doors, you're just like keeping your craft going.
Yep.
And I love it. And then the part of the story is just absolutely mind-boggling to me is you said nefarious people, I think, in the podcast. Right. And we all know, like, the Al Capone style got involved. Yep.
Yeah.
Because
it was a need.
It was, right? So in any way that there is any type of money to be made, it's going to slide in the crowd, and they're going to try and exploit it. Yeah. Because that's what they do. What I love about the story is we're sitting here in sunny San Diego with the name Eppig back on the table.
Yeah.
After its long history of its massive up.
That's right.
The shortfall down because of involvement, Prohibition, and people getting involved that should not be involved. They're in there for the business and not for the brew. Right. And bringing it back to the family, you guys coming in and bringing in these recipes is, you specifically, and absolutely amazing story, amazing journey for the company, an amazing journey we're already taking. This is absolutely fun. Yeah. I had to reach out to you guys because when I saw a lager company, I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes, because we hit IPAs.
All day long, it's IPAs
and,
here in
and
San
it's
Diego.
great.
This is what we love.
And they're all different.
Yeah.
But I was like, when I heard that podcast and when I heard about your company, I was like, there we go. Now we're talking. We got something completely off the beaten path that is trailblazing its own freeway here in San Diego. Yeah. And it's right here in front of us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I like about this brewery is that they actually do specialize in lagers as opposed to like almost any other brewery here in San Diego. Like it's all IPA. Like you look at the menu, it's just like, you guys got nothing but IPAs, no variety, no nothing. So they do specialize in lagers, but they also do have IPAs. We're gonna get to that next. We're gonna get
to those up there.
Yeah. We got some ales coming up next.
That's something for everybody.
Yeah, something for everybody.
Let's try this one here.
Yeah, what do we got next here?
Yeah, as we're kind of climbing the ladder of lagers here, we're going to jump up quite a bit here. This is a Dopplebock. So
the Dopplebock.
You can still tell that it's clear and clean looking. It does have a hint of color to it. So Bock means goat. So back in the day, that meant a beer that was a little higher in ABV, a little more strength to it. It was usually made in the ballpark around like Lent. You might have heard of a Maibach. When people were giving up certain things, or if you're not, you needed to supplement calories, make a little bit stronger beer to kind of get through that period of time. Yep. This is a Dopplebock, and at this strength, it's 8.5%. Nate and I both love actually really lower ABV beers, but it's nice when you can take a traditional style that is represented out in the market and do something a little different in the wintertime. I know it doesn't feel like winter right now, but when this beer got brewed...
I got my hoodie on.
Yeah, we do have a hoodie on. When there's a breeze, it is a little cool. Yeah. But we don't... This is a specialty. We only make it about once a year.
Okay.
But it still gives you...
So this isn't on the menu year-round?
Not everything is, no.
Okay.
Seasonal.
We just don't have enough room to keep all the beers on. We've got maybe 4, 6, 8 beers that are definitely year-round or almost. And then, you know, for the fun, for all the customers who want to come and try all the different beers, and also for us to kind of flex our creativity, we want to be making different and interesting things.
Yep.
Our world of that is making, you know, all the fun old school styles that exist.
Yeah.
Without having to lean too much on anything that's a novelty. You know, I want to make good representations of, because Eppig is sort of a pre-Prohibition brewery in its history, where some of these have been contemporaryized. You know, we've kind of cleaned them up. We have better processes now.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Sure.
Yeah, that's understandable.
This one is definitely the GOAT. You mentioned that. So what I like about this one is that it is a lager, but it has a high ABV, which is like not normal for a lager, right? Like normally, like you're gonna get the high alcohol content in all the IPAs, some of the hazies, or some of those that are just a little bit more bitter with hoppiness.
Yeah.
How'd you guys make this beer and making it a lager while still keeping that high alcohol content? Like, what's so different about this one?
Well, when you get started and you're putting together all the grain to brew the beer, we really, how much barley you use gives you that potential for higher alcohol. So when you look at the piles of bags as they're stacked up, if it's a big pile, you have more potential sugar for yeast to eat. And the more that yeast eats, the more you feed it, the higher the alcohol is going to be. Because when yeast eats the sugar out of the wort, once you combine the two together, it's producing CO2 and it's producing alcohol. Yeah. So whereas the Pilsner malt, if you were to stack those two recipes side by side in the warehouse at the brewery, you would see that there's not quite, but almost, let's just say, double the amount of grain goes into the Dopplebock. And then you go, okay, well, that sounds like a lot of sugar. How do you keep it from being sweet? Well, that's where the magic comes in.
But the great thing about it is that I'm just catching and following is we have a pre-Prohibition approach to everything. We have a recipe, and you're right. So like you're going to have a whole lot more going into this one than you would have in like a pale ale.
Yeah.
But the idea of this style lager pre-Prohibition, and then you guys cleaning it up. And this is going to go back into your background and in Nate's, right? And I'm probably going to say something that's not going to be liked too well by a certain audience, but I would honestly say by the timeline, going off the timeline of recent events from where you came from.
Okay.
When you and Nate came and started your own thing, there was a slide to that company. And in the brewing or in the drinking industry, which is what I am, I'm a novice. I love beer. We're talking about Sculpin. I do like, when I moved to California, I was like, man, this is great.
Oh, sure.
Right?
At one time.
I've been here 15 years, like Sculpin this, and then they had Sculpin Day. I don't know if you've seen that, but you go to a bar and they would release like 10 Sculpins, and you're just like, I'm going to try them all. Yeah. And then you're just getting absolutely loaded because they're
all 7%.
Right. Yeah. So, and you're like, oh, orange and this and grapefruit, and you really enjoyed it. And then, you know, you have the buyout, which is great for companies that are moving up. But when people or companies acquire companies, then they look at the bottom dollar because they have to. They just paid a note for a company, and they got to look at how are they going to recoup the money they threw out.
That's right.
And unfortunately, with beer, you can't do that. You're changing the recipe by doing such things, and you can see the slide in. Well, if you go to the forums, you'll read about it. People are just like, you know, Sculpin doesn't taste the same as it used to, and it really is true. And you start going into the ingredients, and the ingredients changed a little bit. So it makes a big difference. Yeah. But it's about the price point at that point. Yeah. So
Clayton here actually worked for Ballast Point. That's where he originated at.
That's the story of. I'm sorry, Ballast Point, but I do like a lot of their brews.
That's where we cut our teeth, man.
Man, I'm telling you, great. I mean, just amazing beer. And I'm really hoping, because they just had the reacquisition. And I'm just crossing my fingers here at BeersofaFeather that they go back to what you and Nate were doing then.
Yeah.
And there'll be flocks of people coming back.
Is that what's happening? They're going back to how?
Well, we don't know.
Oh, okay.
Well, at least I don't know. I'm not in the inn.
Yeah.
a little bit of what was going on there. While we were at one point, I had made like more sculpin than any person on earth. Like there was just the way that we were cranking so much.
Yeah.
And the business kept growing, and then it sold. We actually didn't have many changes before Nate and I left. A lot of that happened later, but had nothing to do with us. Like we knew we were gonna. Every brewer, every line chef, we all want to go open our own restaurant. We all want to go open our own brewery.
Yep.
So that was always part of the dream. Nate went away to school to become a certified master brewer certificate holder in the realest of deal. And so we knew that was part of the plan. When the sale had happened for Ballast, all it was for us was a little bit of a motivation that like maybe it's time for us to start really considering what we want to do.
Yeah.
Kind
of gave you that push to kind of.
This company's doing what it's doing. I still went to work. We still made all the beer. Nothing really changed for me. I've heard that things changed after, but I will say the guys I knew who were there stayed there and did everything in their power to continue to make excellent beer because it was the best, arguably, the best brewery during that period that existed. There was more money invested in quality control, ingredients, bringing in talent, and
it's true though. It's true. You can't argue against that.
It's tough to keep the pyramid super pointy. When you're playing with sand, you keep pushing it up.
So true.
And the fellows that are still there, still working, I recommend you should go talk to Chris Takeuchi at Little Italy. Where the R&D facility is, which is where Nate worked. They actually kind of like overlapped with each other there. They're still doing some really neat stuff, and there's some good guys that are out there. So give them a chance and see what's going on. It's tough when a company's really big. Whatever their mainline stuff is going to be less exciting.
Yep.
Core beers, we make them too. Thankfully, I'm happy with ours, and the difference that I would like to see, and we do see at more craft breweries, is if a brewer is at that top decision-making level, then we can do our best to ensure that, okay, it's a core beer, but like this has got to be consistent and perfect, and we can make money selling this beer with these good ingredients and scale it up you don't scale it up and take something out.
Yes.
Or you'll lose its essence.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like about the smaller breweries is that when they get started, it's normally typically off of like one of the people that have actually been a brewer. So they know what it's like to make the craft, to put the ingredients in and actually make a product that's good, that has good quality. I mean, like, it's not just all about the business. You guys are about, obviously, the business, the bottom dollar, but you want to make a good product as well.
Yep.
So I think that's great. So you're one of the co-founders here, obviously, and how many years you got in the business of brewing?
So brewing since 11 years in the brewing.
11 years?
Brewing, and a few years before that, where we had touched on before falling in love with beer when I was with Carl Strauss, because I was on the restaurant side, and that's where I underwent a conversion. If you ever get a chance to talk to Paul Segura, who's the head guru there, where I really learned when I went from like a macro beer drinker who didn't know anything, full conversion, all the way to craft beer occurred at there, and then that's when I got a job at Ballast.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
Speaking of quality, let's try this one here, right?
Yeah,
we're going
we'll switch it up. We're going to go
right to left.
We're going to go to the light end here.
Yep.
And this beer, if you hold it up and show it to the camera, this is a wheat beer. People go, it's a wheat beer.
Okay, I definitely want to try this one.
But it's not murky.
What's a wheat beer? A lot of people
don't have any murkies, actually. No hazies.
Nothing's murky.
No hazies.
It's murky.
No
Full
hazies.
This is
clarity
clean.
here.
Yeah.
So this beer has as much wheat in it as you would find in a Hefeweizen. We use a different yeast, so you don't get banana and clove notes. This beer's called Meister. It's called Meister. Meister means champion in German. For the first 5 or 6 award shows that this went to, it won gold. Not just something, gold. And it was in the wheat beer category, and if you taste it, you're like, wow, it does kind of have a wheaty note. It doesn't have that viscosity that the hazy beers do, because you have a lot of stuff in suspension there.
Yep.
So you have a clean, clear finishing beer, which those terms are something you're going to hear a lot with Eppig beers. But when we weigh out that beer, there's a ton of wheat in it.
You know,
and it's low ABV.
I like this one.
It's a Northern German wheat beer. The actual style is called Kotbusser.
Kotbusser.
Which is a style nobody's ever heard of. It's a historical style.
You want your coat booster? Come here.
Yeah, Kottbusser. I had to, and everyone pronounces it different. But I think that was just a fun one that I wanted to throw in. Fun in the nerdy way that we are, where we're splitting hairs of like clarity and lightness, and doing it in a total different way than we make a Pilsner.
I'm actually really curious about that. How do you guys get the clarity? Like, how do you guys make it so clear as opposed to all the rest of the breweries that have hazies and you can clearly tell the murkiness to it?
Yeah.
Are you guys doing something different?
It's a different kind of work. The ethos and like kind of theory of brewing is that all the elements of beer matter, and that includes the ingredients you start with, how you treat those ingredients once they're in the process, and then also how the beer is served.
Yeah.
So how the beer looks in a glass is as if you could have a Michelin star chef making you a wonderful dish, but if he kind of flops it on the plate and it's splashy and gross, it's still going to taste delicious, but the presentation is part of the whole experience.
That's right.
And some people might say proper glassware, that's part of it, how it's presented. Right. And so the clarity element is traditionally something that we look back to and was brought into the brewing world, and we feel that is how a beer should be finished. Now, that's our theory. We have lots of friends who brew at different breweries who make hazy beers. We even occasionally do have one. We make a Zwickel beer that's one of my favorites, which is a young lager that's a little hazy. But again, it's a historical style, therefore it's appropriate.
Yes.
Nice.
So the clarification process is a number of steps, not just one thing. And we feel that is the best way to present our beer.
That's fair.
What I like about it is, and I learned a lot about your brewery from the podcast that you personally been on.
Yeah.
Because I totally nerded out and Googled it all. You said something in the podcast, and we'll put a link in the podcast for anybody that wants to listen. You said something very specific that kind of is resonating in the back of my head now, and it's going to each brewery. You can't hide a lot of things in the beers because in the lagers, because it's not being masked. And I'm paraphrasing because it's not your exact words. If you have a hoppy beer, like we've had some beers, let me digress. I digress for just a second. I do like hazies, and I didn't before. Sure. I was a blonde, clear blonde.
That is true.
That's just true. My go-to. Yeah. And as we start doing this, I'm like, oh my God, I like these hazies. What the heck is this thing going on here? And when I listened to the podcast about the IPAs, we've been having some like 7 hops, 8 hops, hoppy beers, and they're fun. They're like, you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. But at the same point, the delicate side of things, you can hide a lot of stuff with that strong hop. Like if you have an imperfection in your beer, you can throw it in and make it really hoppy at the end and kind of like cover it. Luckily I haven't had any of those yet. If I do, I will call it out. I'm just that kind of person. I'm like, but it brings me back to McDonald's, and they're probably going to hate me for this. McDonald's, before they got sued, their coffee was super, super hot. And the urban legend behind it is that McDonald's kept their coffee so hot because there was no flavor. So it would burn your taste buds. So you would drink the coffee, it'd burn your taste buds. But it was cheap. It was like super cheap, get coffee. And it's still cheap. McDonald's coffee. You go in the morning, get $1.
It's $1.
You go, you got coffee, you're good to go, and you're running your day. To me, it's not the same, but hops to me is that temperature, right? So if I drink too many hoppy beers, I can't taste the next beer. I'm done, right?
You blow out.
It blows out, and then I got to go with a stronger hoppy beer. But then I'm like, okay, well, this is like a 9 and a 10, and so now I'm just getting trashed. So like, what am I trying to do here, right? With the lagers, I just feel like to me it's a delicate style, and it's flavorful. There's no hiding the imperfection in a lager. And I brought this idea from the hazy, because hazy to me, in just visually, means like there's a lot of sediment, there's a lot of stuff going on in there, and possibly can hide stuff. Your beers, you can't hide.
Yep.
If you mess up a batch of this, you're going to taste it right away. There's nothing hiding your flavor and your journey.
Sure.
My hat's off if I had one. I like this journey so far.
Yeah.
I'm really having fun. So
great.
Absolutely beautiful beer.
Thank you so much. Yeah. In the world for the people who like hazies, because sometimes we get that question, the style has been completely legitimized. It is recognized. Awards are given for it. That fight is gone. People ask, why haven't we made one? I just say yet. And when I say yet, I don't mean like next week or this month, surprise. I just meant we have only so much time to make the beers that we really care about. And with so many awesome breweries in San Diego that are doing really well with those other styles, you now have these really fruity, juicy, those descriptions get tossed around a lot, and not all beers are that way, but the people who are doing them really well, and there's plenty in San Diego, they're lovely. Mm-hmm. When my friends make one and I have it, I'm like, man, that is pretty good. Kind of tastes like orange juice.
Yeah, right.
But that's okay. Thank you for making that. And then, hey, come over and try my alt beer, because that's what I geek out about.
Yeah,
we get excited about those type of things. So I'm glad we have the range in San Diego to have them all, and I don't have to make them all, and you don't have to make them all.
No, it's absolutely. This is just amazing.
Yeah.
So what do we got here?
All right. So of all the beers that were on here, this is the one hoppy beer we're going to have.
Yes, we just segued into hops.
Yeah, and get it while it's hot.
What's this one?
So this is our Me Roar IPA.
Oh, you can smell that.
Brewed in conjunction with the Pink Boot Society, which is
you can smell the hops
female society of brewing employees in San Diego.
Actually, I think we were just messaging them on our Instagram.
Yeah.
What a great, and again, hats off for helping them out and doing this, because what a great, what was women, what did they do it for? It was International Brew Day, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the pictures that you guys and that they posted were, I just sat there and I was like, this is such a family feel.
Yeah.
Looking at just not knowing what's going on, what's being said, but just by the photos, I was like, wow, what an open door, welcome to our family feel of watching the brewing happen, the brew happen. And I'm now slurring my speech as I'm moving through.
1.5 beers in.
Right, I know. I'm a lightweight. But
you didn't even finish them.
And they're like, I'm not even finished them.
Like, wow.
They're all like half. So he only drinks below the mark. So you can't see that
he's
funny.
What you feel.
You like that? You like that? We're gonna just to enjoy your joke there. Yes, it's very true.
You got more for later.
That's fair.
It's true. Fair. I'll do the journey. But this is really cool. And I'm really, really excited. You're laughing, but I'm super excited. I'm no longer the joke. I'm super excited to try this one because of what was done to create this particular beer. The collaboration between your brewery and them to create this very specific only here beer. Okay, I want to try it.
Yeah, please do.
I've tried it a little bit. It's actually really good.
Really aromatic.
I was super excited about this beer.
This one's really good. It doesn't, like, the hoppiness isn't overpowering. That's what I like about it. So it's still like, even if you like IPAs, if you like that hoppy beer, you taste this one and it's not going to be fully overpowering. Like, you're still going to enjoy the flavor. You're still going to enjoy the smoothness. Like, I think when you guys like do that, that whole experiment, when you guys actually make it so clear, it's just making it so much more drinkable. Like, I don't know if it's just the visual effect or if it's just my taste buds, but it tastes really good and it's just very drinkable. It goes down very smoothly.
I would say that goes with the generations and the master brewers who are the wizards that are here.
Yeah.
Mad scientists.
At the end of the day, any beer, it's still got to be an Eppig beer.
Yeah.
That's right.
And even our most powerful tasting beers are going to still have a language that is comparable, thematically comparable throughout, even though the beers can be different. So we use a hop called Strata in this, which is a newer hop, and you get kind of like maybe some pineapple-y notes, which is lovely. Who doesn't like pineapple? Pineapple without, we don't add pineapple. That's just what we're going to get from the kind of tropical fruit without being over the top. I'm not trying to kill your mouth.
Right.
6.5%, so not over the top. Actually, like a really lovely.
That's
for me and my size,
it's
like
a nice medium.
6.5% is like a nice, stronger beer that I can have a couple, and I still.
So me at my size, you're like, you should be done.
Yeah.
Have a water.
You guys are young. You guys are young. You guys can still handle it all. But the Hear Me Roar name, picked by our staff, a lot of breweries, including us, we have been at times in the 6 years we've been open, we've been well over 50% female employees, including our founding partner, Stephanie Eppig. So it's important to, Sandiego has done a great job with the Pink Boot Society, bringing awareness to like, hey, and all the pushes for greater diversity that needs to exist in our industry and all industries. Well, right every day we have a large amount of female employees who love beer, passionate about beer. Yeah. I can't do this by myself. Nothing happens by yourself. No one, I don't care what anyone tells you. It's always a team, like all the way from the top to the bottom, from ownership to wherever in the organization.
Nice.
So a few years ago, we actually got on board with this, and one of our other beers called Wake Up and Slay, which actually comes out in next week or in a week and a half, was another International Women's Brew Day beer that became popular, and we're trying to make it year round because it sells so well.
Yeah.
So the input,
just the name just makes you want to drink it.
It kind of does. Wake Up and Slay. Yeah. And then
I mean, come on, wake up, come here, drink that beer. Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean,
yeah.
Right.
So Nate, and he talks with the team, and we have, these are the ingredients we have. Where are we looking to go? Sometimes those creative conversations will drive a beer in a certain direction that you may have asked a question and didn't know where it was going to really take you. And Hear Me Roar is a beer that we have on tap in all our tasting rooms. We have sold some out to the world because there was some demand for it, but we've typically tried to keep it in-house, and there's a donation that goes along with that. We sell those beers and we donate towards women's causes. And we're like, oh wow, like we have this contained way of help putting our money where our mouth is with a thing that is succeeding by making people happy, and it wouldn't have happened without that organization.
Mine's already empty, so just in case.
Hey, look at that!
Oh,
look at that!
Is
this
your
is a first. Yeah, I like this beer, man.
Yeah, there you
this
go.
was really good.
I can't really. I don't have a favorite right now. It would depend on what I'm feeling like that day.
Yeah. Where are the stars? Where's the moon? What's the weather?
Normally at a brewery, I do have a favorite. Like this is gonna be my go-to. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna be like right off the bat as I walk up. I'm like, I'm gonna have this. I do feel like I'm gonna be that person that's sitting there and going, let me look. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because they do, like, it just depends on the day. What am I doing that day and how I feel.
Me too, man.
This is really cool because just behind the beer, it's just absolutely a great tasting beer. It's not hoppy IPA, like not like
it's really good.
you're gonna like if you want hoppy, it's not gonna be your beer. If you want hops to finish with a flavorful beer, that's it. And I can see why it is very popular because it is very tasty.
Yeah.
And it doesn't again kill my taste buds. I can enjoy, and I know I'm gonna be able to enjoy the next two.
That's right.
But beyond everything, back a little bit of a background. I come from Alaska, so everything I grew up with was like oil and military and predominantly male, right? And in my mind, not just being maybe naive, thinking that the brewery industry is also very male-centric. And when I saw this happen, and I'm sitting here going, there you go, right? Because there is a whole other, the female world that is going to bring out amazing beers and introduce them to us. And as a person that likes to drink the beer, not necessarily make the beer, I'm open to whoever makes a great beer. And so I applaud you guys, and I hope this happens more across the industry, and I hope eventually becomes a 50-50 thing, and I would love it.
One of the interesting things about the female part of our industry, so I have a significant other who is not in the brewing industry, and so does Nate, our partners, and kind of like it's not 100%, ubiquitous across, but to get in the brewing world is not usually a real lucrative thing to do.
No.
You can be it's a passionate thing. You're an artist of a sense, and hopefully someday it does provide for the family in a really good way. But really, you're pursuing a passion, and you want to share that passion with people. And the partnership we have with like significant others everyone's a working couple these days. Yes. Without our significant others, none of this happens. Zero of it. Like, I would love to tell you I'm just this amazing single independent person you need two working people to when I didn't make any money, when I was at the very bottom of the brewing world, I'm washing kegs, and that's how you get in.
Yep.
You paying rent in San Diego, being a keg washer, it's a difficult thing.
I can only imagine.
No matter how many roommates you have
I
or
can
anything.
only imagine.
So sort of, it's not everybody, but I would say a lot of people I know, none of this happens without the other half. And for you, whether it's a female or just a partner, it's that concept of, hey, there's more than just one of us making this happen. And for us here at Eppig, like I said, we're more than half female, so that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. And just sitting here and having these beers. So I would like to say thank you to your wife.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for your support, these people that are sitting, and they can't see them on the film, but all these people that are sitting here would not have this happening to them. And you have families here, and you have people just enjoying, and tourists that are here enjoying San Diego, and they're all going to have stories about when they came here and that beer that they had. And if it wasn't for the support, whether whatever your significant other is, it would not happen, and we wouldn't be here, and BeersofaFeather wouldn't be here with you. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you're right. It is a complete support structure. And again, that podcast will be linked, because that you do talk about that in depth, about the financial struggles within the brewery industry, and not having a backer and a bunch of money to start up, and where you guys came from. You cut your teeth at a major brewery, both you and Nate. You guys came in with Eppig, and you guys all came together to create this, to bring it back to life from where it was at. And if you did it without deep pockets and backers, and to sit here in the Bay of San Diego right now with you, that's a success.
Yeah.
That's an absolute success story.
It's a weird way to get waterfront property, but this is one way. This is one way to do it.
I can't afford waterfront property, so.
I've talked about setting up a tent. I'm like, well, technically, I do pay rent here, so.
I'm just like.
Yeah, they might.
Absolutely.
Sir, you're gonna have to move along. No, I pay rent.
Right. Let's jump to this guy here. I'm really excited about this.
I love the color to
right?
this.
Oh yeah. So we moved on. We're shifting gears yet again.
Almost like wine or a seltzer or something.
So again, a traditionally German style called Berliner Weiss. This beer is called Glitz Glam, which is kind of a fun, sparkly name for a fun, sparkly beer.
Goes with the name, yeah.
So when you try this beer, it almost has like a raspberry champagne-ness to it.
Is this a sour?
It's a light sour.
Sour.
Tart. We'll call it tart.
All right.
He technically doesn't like sours, but
I don't like sours.
We're going to go ahead and give this a try.
If you like raspberry and you like champagne,
I have a feeling he's going to like this one.
I do like mimosa, so
he's going to like this one.
Raspberry mimosa all day long, right there.
Oh shit, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah. So the sour,
that's what I'm talking about.
Is on the lighter side.
Yes, that's why it doesn't overpower you. I'm not getting like killed by
I need your enamel to stay on your teeth.
Yes.
So I need it to. That's where it belongs. So this beer.
Oh man,
that is a freaking awesome. Oh my god!
It reminds me of those when I used to eat as a child. Those suckers.
Only as a child.
He's like, under my bed, I got a whole pile of them.
I haven't had one of those in years, actually. But like the ones with the gum in the middle.
Yeah. Tootsie Pops. Tootsie Pops.
Not the Tootsie, not the Tootsie Rolls.
Let's hook them up to a lie detector here. You know you got a bag of it.
I wish. This is really good, actually. It's just like candy.
So we use real raspberry puree, so that's where you get that color.
Okay.
And interestingly, one of the few, so we're all about consistency and not allowing variances, and that's our lane that we love to stay in. We use a real fruit puree, and sometimes it changes color. Sometimes it's a bright pink. Sometimes it's kind of like a burnt orange. And
but that is a huge point right there, because
it's all natural.
Because it's a puree, not an extract.
Yes.
you are going to get a different coloration.
Very
And
nice.
you will get, because this particular beer will be subject to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
How was the crop
That's right.
this year? So just because it's not maybe it dips a little bit and you're like, oh, I didn't like it this year. It is subject, just like wine, to its
Weather
environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a great idea, because extract, you get like this fake taste when you do a lot of extracts.
Yep.
And when you do purees, I think it just keeps it humble and very very basic when it comes to its abilities. And with that, you create such an amazing, semi-sour beer.
Yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
I do really like this, man.
Yeah. I know.
Like,
you
I want
like
to have
it.
this in my fridge just for those days. I have in my fridge, I have beers
Yeah.
on the bottom. I have some champagnes,
Mm-hmm.
and I have some juices.
Yeah.
Because depending on the day, I'm like, you know what? Today is just one of those days. I feel like I'm freaking mimosa tower.
Sure.
I'm going to make some
Yeah.
mimosas, man.
Nice.
My day off, I've just worked 5 days straight. I'm doing mimosas.
Yeah.
And this is going to sit right there. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to go ahead and make the mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's
Open
the
up 3
alcohol
things to
content
make
on
one.
this one?
It's real low. It's 4.9.
4.9.
What
Okay.
a great.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Mhm. I like
Yeah.
the taste.
I think
of
I'm
this
gonna
one.
I'm gonna buy this and bring it home, because I'm gonna have to have some later.
mimosas.
Yes, I'm
Around
bringing
our
this
house,
home.
it's a bit of a Sunday beer.
Yes.
Where we're mowing lawns and doing laundry around the house, and it's noon, and maybe there's a game on, and
I like that.
I know I got to go to work the next day, so it's kind of like a light way to have a beer in the afternoon. It's effervescent and fruity, and without being Dopplebock, which would totally change how your afternoon goes.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know.
yes. Goes from like getting stuff done to bad decision Saturdays.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's finish this flight here.
I had to throw a dark one in there just to kind of change it
I
up.
like
You're
it.
gonna like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can already tell.
I'm guessing this one's is it
Ooh.
a stout?
So this is a stout.
Ooh,
The
smell that.
the
bad
only
boy.
one stout you guys have on tap right now, right?
Specifically, a export stout. Export stouts tend to be
Smell this.
a touch higher in ABV relative. Anything with export in the name
Roasty.
next to a style, an export is going to be higher ABV than its non-export equivalent. So regular stouts, maybe they're 4, they're 5%. So this is going to be up towards 7. You add that. We brew it so that there's a higher ABV. If you were going to be shipping it around the world in olden times, that higher alcohol content helps preserve the beer and keep the beer healthy as it's in transit, especially in olden times when there was no refrigeration.
Okay.
That makes
All right.
sense.
So this is called Sinister Path. The word sinister is interesting because it has a couple meanings. We always think of it meaning evil, but in olden times, the word sinister meant left-handed. You can look it up in the Webster, and the second
I didn't know that.
descriptor of sinister is left-handed. And Nate, my partner, is left-handed. And at one point, we had over 50% left-handed employees, which was totally random.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it has a good name. It's a dark beer with a big taste.
That's sinister, man.
This beer
Some
just
horns
won
coming out of it.
just won a gold medal
I'm gonna
in
call this
Germany.
Nate's
for
beer.
export stout.
Nate's beer.
So, kind of a fun story of the word sinister that you can now, fun fact. You can
I
tell
did
your
not
friends.
know that.
Sinister means
I had no
left-handed.
idea.
So when somebody calls me sinister, I'm gonna be like, thank you.
I'm left-handed.
I'm left-handed.
Yeah, I'm left-handed.
I'm not. Dang it.
But
Darn
back,
it. No, he means that.
back in the world of like when there was like witches and stuff, it was like
Yeah.
any deviation from whatever considered normalcy was like evil and possessed and the devil. And so the word sinister was just that word, and that word then became bad. And so we brought it back, and it's good.
So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one to my dad, who's left-handed Catholic growing up.
Oh, yeah.
So his poor left hand was getting slapped by rulers
All the
because
time.
he
Oh, man.
means that
Yeah.
you're writing
Yeah, right.
like the writing of the devil.
Yeah, huh?
And so you know what, sinister, Dad, just because you're left-handed. Sorry about your hand.
Yeah. Tough skin though.
What a great beer, man.
Yeah. I can
So-
taste the like roastiness to it.
So you're more into stouts than I am.
I love stouts.
And what I like about this, it's not heavy. Like I'm drinking
That's
it,
right.
and I'm not feeling like I just had like spaghetti.
Yeah.
You know, it's super flavorful. I'm getting to enjoy the stout. I can get all the flavors that I'm hitting. And I'm not sitting here going, well, I just drank a stout, you know? Because you know that. It's just like, to me, this is like, I I wouldn't consider this a stout other than the process and everything being in the color and everything being a stout, that it is a stout. And a smell, man, that was an amazing smell.
Yeah.
You get a touch of the coffee, a touch of the chocolate, but without it being like a caricature. We want it to be a clean finishing beer. So there should be notes of those things to be appropriate and traditional to the style without it smashing you in the face. Sometimes we can make another beer. We do make another beer. We make a beer called Count Chocula, or Count Maltula, excuse me, as a play on Count Chocula. Which where we ham it up a little more and it gets a little bit sweeter and a little more chocolatier. But this is more about the traditional style.
You know what I think I like? What it is, I feel like mostly stouts when I have them, I feel like they're flat. And this one is not. Sure. Like I'm drinking this and it fits everything else. It's very balanced carbonation to it.
That's fair.
I don't know if I just like carbonation because I do drink a lot of soda, whatever. But for me, I stay away from a lot of the darker beers because I feel like they're flat. And this one does not hit that. Like it's very balanced carbonation.
This has been sitting here for a while and I can still see the bubbles rising up to it.
Yeah.
So that you're right. You're right about the carbonation. And I do like my stouts and I guess I never actually, to be honest, I've never thought about it.
You never did, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it actually like tasting a little bit flat.
Yeah.
But you can definitely have the carbonation in this one. So
this is nice. And it's
this is good.
Yeah, I think it lightens it up. Maybe that's what's lightening up the end. I don't know. But like I said earlier, it doesn't feel heavy to me. Like I'm getting all the flavor. Yeah, well, it's the mad scientist.
All of them go through this like lager experimentation like of clearness that just makes everything just so drinkable. So I think that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, that one's clear too. It's just really, really dark. You can't see through it. It just absorbs.
Yeah, I can totally tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
What an amazing beer, man. So I'm going to be posting a photo in our feed here, and I'm going to describe it. It's you. I believe it's Nate. Looks like Oktoberfest a little bit. You guys are all dressed up. Yeah, you're sitting together, having a nice cozy picture.
Are we on a barrel?
You're on a barrel. What's going on there?
That one?
Yeah, I remember that photo shoot, and I have a poster of that. That one's for the ages. I've always told them, when we got started, we're kind of a staid and stuffy type dudes that brew beer, and I was like, yeah, but for the photos you need to get uncomfortably close. And even for just a natural photo, like if you were to take a photo of us right now, this is too far away, you actually need to kind of like touch shoulders for it to look normal when the photo happens. And so that one was on a whim. He was sitting on the barrel and I just jumped up next to him.
How uncomfortable was
I was like, are you uncomfortable? And he goes, very. I was like, then the photo will be good.
It's a great photo.
And it's a great photo.
It's a great photo.
I'll forever love that photo. And
awesome.
And some of my friends give me a hard time. I was like, hey man, we're here to be inclusive, not exclusive. And that is a good picture.
It's an absolutely great photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to be close.
Yeah.
So we gotta break that whole stigma.
Yeah,
the stigma behind just being like just inclusive from each other. It's not necessary.
Khalil and I are very close, but we drink a lot. So
it helps. If you remember from the photo, we also had beers.
Yes, you did.
Nice.
You did. There's it was like
breaking down barriers,
a progression of photos, and it's like as a group got closer.
Yeah.
Well, I really do appreciate your time today. I know we've been taking up a lot of your time. Is there anything coming up that you would like to say to the fans here that you guys might be doing here at Eppig?
Yeah, certainly. The next thing coming up is Frühlingsfest later this month. Definitely check on the socials for exact time and dates of like what time we're open. Frühlingsfest, Spring Festival. We got a fresh batch of Fest beer coming out. You guys didn't get to have Fest beer. It is my all-time favorite beer, and that's saying something because there's a lot of favorite children that are out here on the table that we've enjoyed. Yeah. So I mean, we're
when does that one come out?
Just weeks away.
Just weeks away?
2 weeks,
Okay.
Is the first Frühlingsfest. So please check it out. Come down and visit us, eat some pretzels. Feel free to dress up, sit on a barrel with me. We'll get close. It'll be fun.
We'll reenact. You know what? We should reenact that photo.
Let's reenact it.
We're going to reenact all your photos from that photo shoot.
Sounds good. Yeah.
It's gonna
sounds like fun.
So that's our biggest thing that's coming up for this kind of like springtime. And then that release of the Wake Up and Slay that we talked about, the
awesome
other historical women's brew day beer that just does so well. And if you like those big fruity IPAs, that it doesn't have haziness to it, but it certainly has those big kind of fruit forward flavors.
Awesome,
Nice.
fantastic.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you, sir, for your time.
You bet,
we'll
man.
Get out of your
thanks for
hair
having
here
us,
and
man. I
open
really
up this
appreciate
area so people can come and enjoy the water.
Yeah.
So
Great having
Thank
you guys. Nice to meet all of you.
absolutely.
A lot of fun.
Clayton,
What?
thank
Love
you
talking
so much,
about
man.
beer.
I really appreciate it, man.
Fun,
Thank you.
So fun.
Yeah.
Guys, Beers of a Feather, if you're in San Diego, Eppig Brewery down here near downtown San Diego on the waterfront. Come on down, check it out, have some beer, enjoy the water, enjoy sunny San Diego weather.
Most
Eppig
importantly,
Brewery.
enjoy the beer.
And the beer.
It's great beer.
Jesus.
Amazing.
Absolutely great. I mean, come on, I finished one.
One.
I'll finish the rest.
So we're gonna.